Coming home can heal you, or split you wide open. 10 years is a long time to live like a ghost. For a decade, my life was steel, floodlights, and wind on Alaska's North Slope jobs, where fear gets you killed and silence keeps you alive. I told myself I wasn't abandoning my family. I was buying them safety. I was sending money home like armor. Oak Ridge House was the reason. A family estate outside Savannah, white columns, iron gates, old oaks that looked like they'd been standing guard for a century. My parents left it to me, and I left it in my sister Elena's care while I chased paychecks big enough to protect everyone inside. My son Ryan was 15 when I left. Smart, charming, hungry for attention in a way that made me worry, but not enough to stay. Elena was steady. She always had been. She sat with our mother through her final nights, held her hand, and never once asked for anything in return. When my plane landed in Georgia just after sunset, the air hit me warm magnolia and wet grass, with something sour underneath like milk left too long. I didn't call ahead. I wanted the surprise. I wanted the hug. I wanted the moment that makes 10 years worth it. A young driver named Mateo glanced at me in the mirror as we approached the historic district. "You sure this is the address?" he asked. "That neighborhood is serious money." I stared at the iron gates rising out of the dark. "It's mine," I said. Or it was. The gate clicked open like a jaw. Oak Ridge House waited at the end of the drive, lanterns glowing like steady eyes. And from inside, jazz, laughter, champagne. A party. A party in the home I'd paid for one frozen paycheck at a time. Sometimes the truth is lying right at the front door waiting for you to step over it. The foyer was bright enough to sting. Crystal chandelier. Marble floors polished to a mirror. A wall of perfume and laughter. People I didn't recognize held champagne like it was oxygen. For a beat, nobody noticed me worn jacket, scuffed boots, face carved by cold and work. I blended into the edges like hired help. Then I saw the lump by the threshold where a welcome mat should have been. At first I thought it was a bundle of rags tossed aside after cleaning. Then it moved. A thin ankle slid out. A trembling hand. Tangled hair fell away from a face I knew like my own. Elena. My sister lay on the floor like discarded laundry, cheek pressed to marble. Her lips were cracked. Her eyes were half open and unfocused, like she'd learned not to look at anyone too long. My chest turned to ice. I took one step forward, and the party noise suddenly sharpened too loud. Too careless, and then boots came toward her. Heavy, confident. A tall young man in a tailored blazer walked in from the garden side, holding a drink. Mud clung to his expensive shoes. I recognized his laugh before I recognized his face. Ryan, my son. He didn't even glance down like she was human. He placed his muddy shoe on her back and scraped hard, wiping dirt off on her body as if she were a rug. Elena made a sound, not a scream. A whimper. Like an animal trained to survive by being quiet. A woman near the staircase giggled. "Ryan, you'll stain the floor." Ryan grinned. "Relax. That's just our crazy maid." And the room laughed. My fists clenched so tight my knuckles ached. For one dangerous second, I saw red. Then Alaska took over. Rage gets you buried. Control keeps you breathing. So I stayed silent, and I stepped into the light. The scariest moment isn't cruelty, it's how comfortable everyone is with it. Music thinned like someone turned down reality. Faces shifted. Smiles stiffened. Guests looked at me, then at Ryan, waiting to be told what to believe. Ryan turned slowly, drink halfway to his lips. Confusion. Recognition. Panic. Then the practiced grin snapped on the grin of a man who's been lying so long he believes his own script. "Well, look at that," he said loudly. "My poor father." He laughed too bright. "I told you all about him. The doctors warned us. Dementia. Comes and goes. Some days he thinks he owns this place." A few people chuckled nervously, relieved to be handed a story that kept their evening clean. I scanned the room and found a man near the brandy cart frozen like a statue. Judge Malcolm Reddick. 10 years ago, I funded his first campaign. I hosted his fundraiser in this house. I shook his hand and believed he had a spine. His face went white. His glass slipped and shattered. "Jack Mercer," he whispered, like he'd seen a ghost. Ryan's eyes cut to him, then back to me. His smile tightened. He grabbed my elbow hard enough to hurt, careful enough to leave no bruise, and leaned in close. "You're not supposed to be here," he hissed. "I told them you died." I let my shoulders slump, let my gaze blur on purpose, let my voice wobble. "Ryan," I murmured, loud enough for nearby ears. "Where am I? I I can't find my glasses." He exhaled like he'd won. "See?" he announced. "Family tragedy." He dragged me toward the staircase like an inconvenience. And I went, because in places where men die for one mistake, you don't swing at the first shadow. You wait. You listen. You plan. I looked back once. Elena was still on the floor, and nobody moved to help her. He thought locking me up would make me powerless. He forgot who taught me how to survive. Ryan shoved me down a narrow hallway that smelled like lemon cleaner and old money. We passed rooms I remembered, and a framed photo of my mother shoved near a service entrance like an afterthought. At the end was a storage closet. He opened it and pushed me inside. Darkness swallowed me. The door slammed. A lock clicked. No light. No mercy. His voice came through the crack. "You're dead to everyone downstairs. Dead or crazy. Pick your favorite." Then he lowered his voice and aimed it like a blade. "If you cause trouble, I'll throw Elena out back tonight. No coat, no blanket. She'll be gone by morning." I inhaled slowly. My heartbeat didn't race. It steadied. I let my hands shake anyway, performing weakness for a man who liked believing he was strong. I don't understand," I whispered. "Where's my home?" He chuckled, satisfied. "Sit tight." Footsteps faded. Music swelled faintly. I counted to 60 and listened. On rigs, you learn the difference between a man walking away and a man waiting to ambush you. Then I straightened. The old man melted off my spine. In my jacket pocket, my fingers found a small metal hairpin I always carried habit from busted locks and frozen hinges. Sometimes a bent piece of steel is the difference between life and death. I knelt by the lock, breathed once, and listened to the metal. 2 careful twists. A soft click. The door eased open. The hallway was empty. Ryan thought he'd buried me. Instead, he'd just started the clock. I could have called the police. But I wasn't leaving my sister behind for one more minute. The party thinned as guests drifted out. Staff collected glasses, wiped counters, pretended they hadn't witnessed anything. Elena was still near the door, still curled like she belonged to the floor. I crouched and draped my coat over her shoulders. She flinched, automatic, trained. When she realized it was warmth, she made a small sound that cracked something in me. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm back." Her hand, cold, rough, calloused, closed around my fingers like she didn't trust it was real. I sat on the floor beside her, back against the wall, keeping watch the way I used to watch pressure gauges. Steady, constant, alert. Upstairs, Ryan laughed into his phone like none of this mattered. 10 years. $8 million sent home. And my sister slept on a doormat. A memory hit me hard. Elena at 8, slipping her hand into mine after school, whispering, "Promise you'll always come back, Jack. Even if it takes a long time." "I promise," I told her. I kept it. 10 years late. Dawn crept in, gray and slow. Then footsteps approached. A young woman with cleaning supplies rounded the corner and gasped. Behind her, an older woman in a housekeeper's uniform froze, her face drained. "Mr. Mercer?" she breathed. "Pearl. She worked here before I left." Hope flickered in her eyes, then fear chased it. She glanced up the stairs like the walls had ears. "And before we go further, drop a comment with your city and the time where you are." I want to know who's here with me, because what I learned next proved this wasn't just cruelty. It was a plan. The first ally in a war is often the person who's been surviving quietly beside you. Pearl moved fast. She whispered something to the younger cleaner and sent her away. Minutes later, Pearl returned with a tray. Tea, 2 bowls of oatmeal, a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Breakfast," she said loudly for any listening ears. But as she set the cup down, her fingers brushed my wrist and pressed something folded into my palm. She didn't look at me. "Y'all need strength," she said, still loud. Then she hurried away. I waited until her footsteps faded. I unfolded the note. "Don't eat. Powder in food. Makes you foggy. Only drink tap water. Trust nothing, unless I bring it." My stomach tightened. I stared at the oatmeal, warm, innocent, buttery. It smelled sweet. It also smelled like betrayal. I carried both bowls to a tall potted plant by the window and dumped them in. The plant swallowed the evidence. Elena stirred beneath my coat. "Jack?" she rasped. "I'm here," I said, smoothing her hair back. "You're safe." Her gaze flicked toward the stairs. He... Not yet," I murmured. "Just breathe." Inside, something sharp settled into place. Powder and food, a rehearsed dementia story. A crazy maid at the door. Guests who laughed because it kept their night comfortable. Ryan wasn't improvising. He was executing. And whatever he'd done to Elena, he planned to do to me, only faster. The easiest lie to sell is the one that sounds like care. By mid-morning, the dining room looked like a magazine, spread linen crisp, silverware aligned, flowers too perfect to be real. Ryan descended the stairs like he owned the air. Madison glided beside him in silk and diamonds, smile sharp enough to cut. They sat under the chandelier. Pearl guided Elena and me to a small corner setup. Chipped plates, stale biscuits, plastic water pitcher. Not Pearl's choice. An order? Madison didn't lower her voice. "Look at them. It's sad." Ryan smirked. "I'm a good son. I keep them fed." I chewed slowly and watched everything. Exits, phones, who was listening. Ryan slid a leather folder onto our table. "Big meeting tomorrow," he said. "Investors, lawyers, Judge Reddick." He tapped the first page. "Medical power of attorney. Just a formality. So we can manage your care and your finances." I lifted the paper and squinted theatrically. My eyesight was fine. The document wasn't. It was an irrevocable transfer deed. Sign it, and everything becomes his within 24 hours. There was even a clause waiving my right to remain in the home. He wasn't planning to care for us. He was planning to erase us. Ryan shoved an expensive pen into my hand. "Sign. If you can't, make an X." Elena's lips moved like she was trying to speak through a wall. I raised the pen, shaking deliberately, waiting for Ryan to lean in. Then I jerked. Ink splattered. The nib tore paper. My hand smeared the signature line into a ruined mess. "Oh no," I whispered. "I'm so sorry. My hands. They don't listen." Ryan's face flushed. Madison grabbed his arm. "Not here." Ryan leaned close, eyes cold. "Do that again tomorrow, and I'll break every finger." He stormed away. Elena finally looked at me, pupils still wide, but clearing, and whispered one phrase. "The little engine. Our childhood code. I'm hiding something. Pay attention." When someone's been silenced for years, they learn to speak in puzzles. Elena's gaze flicked toward the wall tapestry, as if it could hear her. "Second shelf," she murmured. "Third book, green spine, page 500. Then she blinked like waking and went still again. Ryan didn't notice. Madison didn't notice. But I heard every word. "The library." I waited. Patience is a weapon if you hold it steady. When Ryan's car finally pulled out, likely to print fresh documents, I moved. The library doors were locked. Locks never scared me. 2 quick turns with my hairpin. Click. The doors eased open. The room smelled like old leather and dust. Curtains drawn. A desk lamp sat like a lonely moon. Second shelf. Third book. Green spine. The little engine that could. Too light. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. The pages had been cut out, hollowed into a compartment. Inside was a plastic-wrapped notebook, corners worn soft. Elena's handwriting. I sat on the floor and opened it carefully. March 12. Ryan sold Mom's silver set. Said it broke. Found pawn receipt. April 4. Tried writing Jack. Ryan tore it up. The writing grew shaky. September 10. Dr. Webb injected me. Said vitamins. Slept 2 days. Woke up, painting gone. Later pages looked like they'd been written underwater. No money left. He gambled it. House mortgaged. Developer wants land. $8 million. Gone. Final entry barely legible. I hid the real deed where he'll never look. If Jack comes home, he'll know. Footsteps snapped my head up. Fast. I slid behind the curtain as the door burst open. Ryan entered with a man carrying a black doctor's bag. And the truth walked in with them. Hearing your own child plan your death is a cold you never forget. The doctor's voice trembled. "Ryan, the dosage is already high. If we increase it, their hearts could stop." Ryan answered like he was ordering takeout. "I don't care. I need them drooling by morning." The doctor swallowed. "Judge Reddick will notice. He'll see what I show him," Ryan snapped. He'll witness a transfer from two confused elders. Then the developer gets title, and my debts disappear. Debts. That was the engine. Not family. Not duty. A collapsing house of cards. The doctor whispered, "If you push them too far, this becomes murder." Ryan's voice went low and smooth. "Then we bury them with honors. People die all the time, especially old people." Silence. Then Ryan added, "Double it tonight. Put it in tea. Soup, whatever. If they fight, sedate harder." The doctor, Dr. Harlan Webb, the way Ryan said his name, exhaled like a man stepping off a cliff. "Okay," he said softly. "Tonight." They turned to leave. I stayed behind the curtain long after the door shut. Then I stepped out. My hands were steady. Fear had done its job. Now it was time for leverage. Elena's diary was evidence, but evidence alone doesn't win if the wrong people control the room. I needed a witness. Dr. Webb was afraid. Fear makes people dangerous. It also makes them controllable if you show them what their fear really costs. The fastest way to flip a coward is to show him the cage he's already standing in. I took the servant corridor and waited near the rear entrance. A minute later, Dr. Webb appeared alone, clutching his bag like it was keeping him alive. I stepped out. He jumped. "Mr. Mercer, Jack, you need rest." "Rest?" I said softly. "Or sedation?" His eyes widened. "I heard everything," I told him. "The double dose? The tea? The plan?" He started to deny it. I cut him off. "Stop. Here's your choice." Sweat gathered at his temples. He tried to shift around me. I shifted too calm. "Inevitable." "You think Ryan owns you?" I said. "But you're already trapped. And the door is labeled prison." His throat bobbed. "You've been falsifying records," I continued. "You've been drugging my sister. If she dies, it won't be malpractice. It'll be homicide." I was pressured. "And pressure won't save you," I said. "Here's what will." I lowered my voice. "Switch the dose tonight. Give us vitamins. Placebo. Anything harmless. Tell Ryan you did exactly what he asked." He blinked hard. "He'll come after me." "Then stand behind me," I said. "Tomorrow, when Judge Reddick arrives, you tell the whole truth." His eyes shone with panic. Then he nodded too quickly. "I'll do it," he whispered. He fled. I didn't trust him completely. But fear makes betrayal expensive. I returned to Elena. She was sitting up right now, eyes clearer. "He's looking for the real deed," she whispered. "I know," I said. Her mouth trembled. "In your old coat," she murmured. "The one with the fur collar. The one you left. In family wars, paperwork is sharper than fists." I went straight to the closet where Ryan locked me the night before. Under dusty linens and holiday junk, I found my old shearling-collared coat faded, moth-eaten, still smelling faintly like oil in winter. Elena hovered in the hallway. "Hope makes you cautious when you've been starved." I ran my fingers along the lining and felt a thick seam that didn't belong, clumsy stitching. Elena's hands. I grabbed it and ripped. Fabric tore with a soft, satisfying sound. Inside was official paper heavy, stamped. The original property deed. My signature. Elena's witness line. Notary seal intact. And buried in the fine print like a trapdoor. A revocation clause. Any transfer made under fraud, duress, or threat to family could be voided by the original owner. My breath left me. Ryan's whole plan depended on me being too foggy to fight. But the deed itself had been written, like my past self knew family can rot from the inside. Now we had it all. Elena's diary. The deed. A doctor terrified enough to talk. And Ryan was staging tomorrow's signing in public. Good. Public goes both ways. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept the deed inside my coat like a heartbeat, and listened to the house like you listen to ice cracking, quiet, warning, inevitable. He tried to hide us like shame. But shame doesn't survive daylight. Morning arrived, dressed in elegance. Florists carried magnolias through the halls. Caterers rolled silver carts. Musicians tuned instruments. Madison snapped at staff like a general. Ryan paced near the foyer, checking his watch every 10 seconds. "Judge Reddick at 7, he said into his phone. "Developers rep 2. Everything must be perfect." Perfect meant fragile. Around noon, Ryan looked up toward the landing. "Hide them," he ordered 2 attendants. "The attic. Lock it. I don't want anyone thinking we're running a nursing home." The attendants approached with forced gentleness. I didn't resist. Not because I was weak, because I was choosing the battlefield. Elena took my hand, and we climbed to the attic. The door shut. The lock clicked. I waited 5 seconds, then tested it. Loose, unlocked. Dr. Webb had followed instructions. The attic smelled like dust and childhood. In the corner, a leather trunk sat, the one my mother used for charity galas. Inside, a burgundy velvet gown and my father's brass commendation medal. Elena stared like she couldn't breathe. "I want you to wear it," I said. I helped her into the velvet. I pinned the medal to her chest. Her spine straightened, her eyes cleared. And real quick, if you want stories where truth wins and masks come off, hit like and subscribe. It helps this channel reach more people. Because what happens next is where Ryan's lie dies in public. Downstairs, the grandfather clock chimed 7. Ryan's voice rose into a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome." I took Elena's hand. We stepped out of the attic and into the light. He built his world on our silence. The moment we spoke, it began to crack. The grand hall glittered. Hundreds of guests, wealth and confidence, sipped champagne beneath the chandelier. A jazz quartet played near the fireplace. Servers drifted like shadows. Ryan stood on a small stage, soaking in attention. Madison sat front row, smiling like she'd already won. Ryan spoke smoothly. "It's a heavy burden watching loved ones fade. Unfortunately, my father and aunt can't attend tonight due to their condition." Sympathetic murmurs. He gestured to Judge Reddick. "Your Honor, thank you for witnessing the guardianship transfer." A pen waited on a velvet cushion like a crown. Then the room shifted. Heads turned. Elena and I appeared at the top of the staircase. She wore burgundy velvet. The metal gleamed. Her posture was unbreakable. Silence swallowed the room. Even the quartet faltered. Ryan's face froze. Then panic snapped into his voice. "They escaped. Security. They're violent." 2 guards moved forward. I lifted one hand. "Stand still," I said. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain. The guards slowed. Confused. We descended step by step. Guests parted. Elena walked beside me like a woman reclaiming her name. Ryan's eyes darted to the judge, begging. But Judge Reddick's face had changed. Shame was visible now. When we reached the stage, I took the microphone from Ryan's hand. He tried to hold it. I leaned in. "Let go," I whispered. He did, and the whole room held its breath. The best revenge isn't violence. It's making the truth unavoidable. I faced the crowd. "My name is Jack Mercer," I said calmly, "and I am fully lucid." Murmurs erupted. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Ryan lunged. "He's lying. He's confused." I didn't look at him. "I'm here to report crimes," I continued. "Theft, forgery, unlawful imprisonment, and attempted murder." The air changed. "The word murder does that." Ryan snapped toward the side. "Dr. Webb, tell them." Dr. Webb stepped forward. He looked like a man walking into a storm by choice. "The medical records were falsified," he said, "written under threat. Mr. Mercer and Miss Mercer are healthy. Their symptoms were induced by sedatives I was coerced into administering." A collective gasp. Ryan surged at him. "Shut your mouth." Judge Reddick stepped between them, voice hard. "You will not touch him." Security grabbed Ryan. Madison started edging toward the exit. I pulled the original deed from my coat and held it up so the seal flashed under chandelier light. "This is the original property deed," I said. "It includes a revocation clause. Any transfer under fraud, duress, or threat to family can be voided by the original owner." Ryan's face went gray. I looked directly at my son. "You wiped your boots on your aunt's back," I said, "in front of witnesses." People flinched. "And you thought calling her crazy would erase it." My voice stayed calm. "Tonight," I said, "your story ends. He didn't fall because I hit him. He fell because everyone finally saw him." Ryan's knees buckled. He sagged against the guards, eyes wild. Madison tried to slip away. A guard blocked her. I turned to Judge Reddick. "Your Honor, you came to witness a transfer. Witness this instead." The judge swallowed and nodded. He motioned toward the side door. 2 uniformed officers entered, calm, professional, already briefed. Dr. Webb had called them. Ryan shouted, "This is my house. Arrest him!" An officer cuffed Ryan without hesitation. Another cuffed Madison as she protested, "You can't touch me." The officer reached into her designer purse and pulled out a silver tea-piece engraved with my mother's initials. "Stolen property," he said flatly. Madison's face turned paper white. Ryan looked up at me from the floor. "Where will I go?" he whispered. And grief hit me not for what he was losing, but for what he'd chosen to become. You had family, I said. You had millions. You had a future. My voice lowered. And you traded it for smoke. I didn't mean. You meant enough, I cut in. Then I turned to the guests, people who laughed, who looked away, who accepted the lie because it kept their night comfortable. Get out of my house, I said quietly. No one argued. They left fast. Within minutes, the hall emptied. The music stopped. The silence felt clean. Dr. Webb stood trembling near the doorway. Judge Reddick approached me, eyes wet. Jack, forgive me. I held his gaze. You don't get forgiveness, I said. You get a chance. Elena touched my arm. Let's go home, she whispered. For the first time in 10 years, I knew what that meant. Justice is loud. Healing is quiet and it lasts longer. The week after didn't feel triumphant. It felt like exhaling after holding your breath underwater too long. Statements, lawyers, cameras outside the gates. Headlines that lasted 2 days before the world moved on. Ryan and Madison sat in county jail awaiting trial. The developer stopped calling once the deed clause and fraud evidence landed on his desk. Inside Oak Ridge House, Elena and I moved like survivors returning to a burned home. Pearl opened curtains, letting sunlight touch rooms that had lived in shadow. I scrubbed the foyer floor on my knees until my hands ached, not because the floor needed it, because my mind did. I cleaned the spot where Elena had been forced to lie. Elena sat wrapped in a blanket nearby. Sometimes she flinched at sounds, doors, footsteps, phones, trauma echoes. One afternoon, I stepped into Ryan's room. Designer suits, watches, shoes lined up like trophies. I felt nothing but emptiness. I dragged it all outside, built a pile, and lit it. Flames ate the lies fast. When the fire died, I shoveled ash beneath the magnolia tree. Elena watched from the porch. Let it stay buried, she whispered. That night, we drank tea from my mother's porcelain pieces Pearl had hidden so Ryan couldn't pawn them. The cups clinked softly. It wasn't celebration, it was recovery. A home isn't proven by beauty, it's proven by safety. 2 mornings later, I planted tulip bulbs in the garden. Something bright. Something that promised a season beyond pain. In Alaska, the ground fought you. Here, the earth welcomed my hands like it understood what I needed. Elena stepped onto the porch in a cardigan, hair brushed neatly. Her eyes were sharper now, her real self returning. How do you feel? I asked. Quiet, she said, but not empty. We watched the oak branches sway. Then she said, the east wing. I turned. 5 bedrooms, she continued. Jack, there are women in this city like me. Older, forgotten, exploited by the people who should protect them. My throat tightened. I don't want this house to just be ours again, she said. I want it to be useful. A crisis center? I asked. A home, she corrected gently, where no one sleeps on a mat. In Alaska, I learned survival. Here, I was learning purpose. We'll do it, I said. Her smile was small but real. Pearl appeared in the doorway with tea and nodded like she'd been waiting for us to say it. The next day, I made calls, contractors, a lawyer who owed me, a nonprofit director tired of losing. The house shifted again, not into a party venue, not into a prison, into something alive. The strongest sign of victory isn't a trophy. It's a boundary you enforce. A delivery truck arrived on a bright afternoon. Elena and Pearl opened a wrapped package on the front steps. Inside was a new doormat, thick, deep burgundy, letters burned bold. Wipe your feet or face the matriarch. Elena stared. Then she laughed. Not nervous, not broken. Real laughter, clear enough to echo through the foyer. I joined in, surprised by my own sound. We laid the mat over the old stained one. The stain vanished beneath something new. There, Elena said, stepping back. Now it's right. She turned to me. Welcome home, Jack. I swallowed hard. Welcome home, Elena. We left the front door open. A breeze moved through the hallways, lifting curtains, chasing out the stale perfume of lies. Pearl wiped her eyes, embarrassed to be seen crying. Thank you, I told her. She shook her head. I just did what I should have done sooner. I understood that feeling too well, because the coldest thing I ever felt was an Alaska wind. It was realizing how easy it is for people to look away when cruelty wears expensive clothing. If you think betrayal like this is rare, You're not looking closely enough. Ryan's trial date was set. Lawyers called. Reporters tried to get a quote. I refused. I wasn't interested in turning my pain into entertainment. But I did allow one thing: the story to be used as a warning. Elder abuse doesn't always look like bruises. Sometimes it looks like a forgetful aunt moved to a back room. Sometimes it looks like a parent who can't handle finances anymore, right before the house changes hands. Sometimes it looks like champagne laughter while someone sleeps on a doormat 5 feet away. Elena started counseling twice a week. Once the sedative stopped, her memory returned in flashes, some sweet, most cruel. Healing was messy. Some days she was strong. Some days she cried without explanation. I stayed. I didn't ask her to hurry. Pearl helped us set rules for the East Wing. Background checks, cameras, open door policies, hotline numbers posted by every phone. One evening, Elena and I walked the wing and imagined warm paint, clean beds, soft lamps. A project can be abandoned, she said quietly. A home is a promise. She was right. If this story hit you, don't just feel it, do something with it. Looking back, my biggest mistake wasn't leaving to work. It was believing paychecks could replace my eyes. I sent money home like armor, $8 million over 10 years, and I thought I was building safety. And while I froze in the north, my sister was freezing in my front hallway. So hear me clearly. Money can buy comfort. It cannot buy protection. Only presence can do that. Call your people. Visit them. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Show up unannounced if something feels off, because predators don't always come from outside your bloodline. Sometimes the coldest betrayal comes from the child you held in your arms. Ryan had love, money, a future, and greed hollowed him out until nothing remained but hunger. And if you're thinking, my family would never, I hope you're right. But hope isn't a plan. So here's what I want from you right now. Where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Drop it in the comments so I know you're here with me. And tell me this too. If you walked into your family home and saw what I saw, would you stay silent like I did at first? Or would you explode? Your answer might be the thing that saves someone else. If this story made you think of an older relative you haven't checked on, call them today. If you suspect someone is being mistreated, don't look away. Share this story with someone who needs the reminder. Because we can build a world where no one sleeps on a mat again. Not with money. With courage. With attention. With love that shows up before it's too late. The story ends here.